Hola, clase de español 3. Hope everyone is doing well, enjoying your quarantine and whatnot. If you're watching this video, in years to come by chance, then hopefully you're, out of quarantine and everything's going well. Going to be focusing on chapter 9.1 for this week's lesson. I'm just doing a little bit more with triggering subjunctive versus indicative modes. One of the things that, like a key phrase for this, I guess, is what I call duality. The idea that some words can mean two things instead of just one. And a lot of it has to do with context clues and when that's the case. You're already aware that sometimes some words in English can mean one thing or another depending on the context in which you use it. Well, that same thing can occur in Spanish. And I'm going to show you a few examples of that a little bit later on in our video, specifically when we're going over vocab. But it might reveal itself a little bit in some of this grammar as well. We're going to start out with the grammar for this week, and let's go ahead and jump right into it, okay? Talking about emotional reactions, expressing disagreement. That'll be more on the vocab side of it, but as we start to talk a little bit first about the predicate versus the imperfect, this is just a little bit of review and a little bit of nuance on some things that you've already seen. So, as you're aware, generally speaking, the predicate tense are actions, and imperfect tenses are more like descriptions of scenes of the past and things like that. There's more to it than that, obviously. And we've talked about several different ways of knowing when to use the predicate tense versus the imperfect tense. And we're just going to flesh out a small detail of that today. So, item number one, you've used the imperfect tense to talk, the imperfect tense of verbs like estar and sentirse to say how people were already feeling at the moment that a thing happened. For example, in this sentence it says, Juan se sentía mal cuando le dieron el examen, which generally translated means that Juan felt bad when they gave him the exam. Okay, what this is really saying, just sort of expounding on that a little bit, is that Juan was already feeling bad, okay, when they gave him the exam. So in that particular situation, Juan didn't feel bad because the exam was given to him. He was already feeling bad when that was the case, all right? So that's why this is in the imperfect tense. It just gave a description of how he was feeling when this other thing occurred. Breaking that down a little bit further, it can go the other way, though, too. You can use the predicate to say how someone reacted to an event, or to give a piece of news as well. Okay, we're going to restate that one more time because I was actually distracted by something happening in my front yard. So here we go. Use the predicate to say how someone reacted to an event or a piece of news. So in this case, very similar sentence to what we had before. I'll move myself up some. Here we go. It says, Juan se sintió, and this should be sintió, not sentió. I'll change that later. Juan se sintió mal cuando le dieron el examen. In this case, sentirse is in the predicate tense instead of the imperfect tense because this is a reaction to having given him the exam. In this case, it's Juan was made to feel bad when they gave him the exam. So the feeling was a result of the event in that case. So it's a small difference. Well, it's only a few letters and a little bit of pronunciation, but an important one nonetheless. Okay. This next one actually follows on to the next slide as well. It says that the verbs estar and ponerse, which normally mean to be or just to put, are irregular in the predicate tense. But notice that here it says to become, because when you use them in the predicate tense, they no longer mean just to be or to put. They actually generally translate to have become something. Let me show you some examples here of these irregulars. Okay, so you have estar, and you have your conjugations: estuve, estuviste, estuvo, estuvimos, estuvisteis, and estuvieron. Normally translated would mean, I was, you were, he or she was, we were, etc. But in this case, 9 times out of 10, when you use estar in the predicate tense, it will mean I became, you became, he or she became. So that's getting into what I was talking about earlier about the duality of some words, how they can mean more than one thing depending on either the tense in which they're conjugated or the context in which they're used. So estar, which would normally be to be, becomes to become. Same with ponerse. Me puse, te pusiste, se puso, nos pusimos, os pusisteis, se pusieron. Normally would be like I put myself, which is weird. But if you think about it, I became. When you become something, you are making yourself be that thing. So it almost makes a little bit of sense to think of it as I put myself, or you put yourself, or he or she put themselves in that situation. Okay, so there's a little bit of linkage there, not a lot. But either way, ponerse means normally to put or to put something somewhere. In this case, it means to become. So estar and ponerse, although very different words in the present tense and in many tenses, actually translate very similarly in this regard. They both translate to become. So estuve and me puse both mean I became. Estuviste and te pusiste both mean you became. Estuvieron and se pusieron both mean they became. So I hope that makes sense, and obviously you can ask questions on that in the future if you have them. Let's move on to our next slide. The verb saber is irregular in the preterite tense and often means found out. Now that's another example of duality, right? You have saber, which normally means to know. But when you know that thing in the past, in the preterite tense, it means you found something out. Still means that you know it, but there's a process of discovery that's implied, if not stated there. The verb querer, another duality word for this week, in the preterite normally means wanted when it refers to a reaction, but it can sometimes mean you tried to do something. So when you say quise, it means I wanted, but it can also mean I tried. Quisiste, you wanted or you tried. Quiso, he or she wanted or he or she tried. We need quisimos here, I'll fix that one as well, which would normally mean we tried or we wanted. That's another thing to fix already. For saber, meaning to know or to find out, supe means either I knew or I found out. Supiste, you knew or you found out. Supo, he or she knew or he or she found out. Supieron, they knew or they found out, given the context of what you're trying to say. So interesting how we have these words that have that sort of live in this dual nature zone. Let's go ahead and finish up with this very quickly. Last slide. I'll move this down some for you. There we go. Okay, the subjunctive with disagreement and denial. This one makes more sense. It's just a small detail, but it feeds directly into what we've already been talking about with regard to subjunctive triggers. So an expression of disagreement and denial are followed by the subjunctive. So if you want to say, for example, no es verdad que los hombres manejan mejor que las mujeres. In this case, you're saying it's not true that men drive better than women. Okay, look at the trigger here. No es verdad. It is not true. That's not just implied doubt. That's just stating it is doubtful. That is not the case. So the verb manejar, which would normally be an AR verb, gets that en conjugation because it's being made into the subjunctive in that case. It is not true that the men drive better than the women. Okay. Next one. Example. Juan niega que los atletas sean todos bobos. Okay. So Juan denies that athletes are all silly. Okay. And this kind of makes sense too because he's denying it. He's saying it's not the case. So not just implied doubt, but outright stated doubt. So that makes your subjunctive conjugation of ser sean as opposed to just son or something like that. Or as we like to say sometimes in class incorrectly, Sean. Okay. However, es verdad, es cierto que, and no niego, so it's true, it's certain that, and I don't deny, those are followed by the indicative since they don't deny any truth of something, they affirm it. So, as a matter of fact, a way of saying is that they indicate it, hence the indicative. So, es cierto que cantan bien, it's certain that they sing well. No niego que tienen talento, I don't deny that they have talent. Okay, so that's it for notes regarding your grammar for this week. Let's go ahead, take a quick look at our vocabulary real quick. Hopefully you have this printed out at home or have something to follow along. You can always look along in your book too. I won't go over definitions for each one, but some of them have some great cognates, so it's good to chat about those sometime. Okay, talking about emotional reactions. First one, estuve contento, I was happy. Me enfadé, I was angry or I was upset. Me enojé, Again, I was angry or I was upset. Now, both enfadarse and enojarse both mean to get upset or to be angry. So that makes sense. A lot of these have close cognitive. Me frustré, I was frustrated. Presionados por, almost has that word pressure already in there. And it means pressured, okay? Quise, either I wanted or I tried. Reaccionaron, they reacted. Se alegró mucho, all right? He or she became very happy, okay? Allegro is in there, so something that is played happily or is up-tempo in music. Se burlaron, okay? That almost has the word bully right in it. It means made fun of. Se pusieron rojos. In this case, they were made red. It's they blushed. He or she blushed. Se rieron. They smiled or they laughed. Supe. I knew. Supiste. You knew. Both of these can mean found out also, like I found out, you found out, depending on how they're used. Just a few more quick expressions here. Won't take too long. First one, al contrario, on the contrary. Niego haberme burlado de. Okay, so I deny having made fun of. Okay, so I deny bullying them. No es cierto que. No es verdad que. No estoy de acuerdo en que. Now this is an interesting one. It means I don't agree that, and then you'd have to complete the sentence afterwards. The N is kind of optional here. You could correctly state, no estoy de acuerdo, okay? Leaving out the N. Okay, almost done here. Last little bit before we finish out for the chapter. Adjectives that describe people. Amigable. Almost looks like the word has the word amigo in it because it means friendly. Arrogante looks like arrogant, and that's what it means. Bobo can mean silly or clumsy. Callado, kind of an interesting cognate here. It means quiet. If you think about it, the word callarse means to shut down or to shut something. So someone who is callado is shutted. Okay. Chismoso, funny or silly. Descortés looks like the word discourteous. That's what it means. Someone who's rude or discourteous. Egoísta, someone who is self-centered, egoist. Melancólico. Looks like the word melancholy, and that's kind of what it is, someone who's gloomy. Perezoso, lazy. Presumido, kind of an interesting word, and presumido means conceited, okay? It looks like the word presumes. In this case, it can be someone who's presumptuous. Oftentimes, someone who is presumptuous can come off as conceited, so that's a little bit of a link in that one. Seco simply means dry, or someone of dry humor. It could also mean someone who is cold, too, I guess is another way of putting that. Tímido, timid or shy. Torpe is another word for clumsy. Travieso means either tricky or mischievous or naughty in some way. So there we go. That's just a quick review of some of your vocabulary. And we've taken a look at some of the different triggers for both preterite, imperfect, subjunctive mood versus indicative mood, etc. Again, any questions, go ahead and shoot them to me via email, or we can Google Meet, whatever works out best for you. Again, if you're watching this video in the future, you can always answer the question in class too. I know that seems like such a foreign concept in this time frame, but hope all is clear. I hope all is going well for you. Enjoy. Ciao. Hasta luego. Y adios.